A man is not born with his schema. He is built into it, one unresolved wound at a time. That quote right there, it's really at the heart of the story we're getting into today. It's this idea that our core beliefs about who we are, well, they're not just handed down to us. They're built, piece by piece, often without us even realizing we're the ones building them. So let's get into it. Today, we're exploring the incredible story of Charles Relentless Relent Moore. And yes, that name is 100% intentional. His story is all about how trauma can build a cage, but also how your own mind can build a fortress to survive it. But the really interesting part, it's what happens after you're free.
To really understand what happened here, we're going to track this story on two levels at the same time. On the outside, we've got the actual events happening to Charles, the things people said, the rooms he was in, the judgments he faced. And at the exact same time, on the inside, we're going to look at what was happening in his brain, his body, the neurological code that was being written in real time.
All right, so here's our roadmap. We're going to break this journey into 4 parts. First, we'll look at the unseen weight that started it all. Then, the official verdict that changed everything. After that, the absolutely incredible survival engine he built to fight back. And finally, we'll explore what happens in the stillness after the war is won. Okay, let's dive in.
So let's start with Section 1, an unseen weight. This part of the story begins way before any big crisis, with all these quiet pressures that started laying the foundation for this internal fortress he would eventually build.
It all kind of kicked off early on when Charles became a father unexpectedly. Now, what you've got to realize is that his prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles planning and consequences, was still years away from being fully developed. So he's making these huge life-changing decisions with a brain that's literally still under construction. And his nervous system logged this, not as some big emergency, but as this quiet, constant background hum. You are behind. You need to catch up.
And then his body started to, revolt. He's dealing with this chronic pain that moved around, had no clear cause. The medical system was stumped, and the people around him, they just dismissed it. You're just tired. You got to push through it. So you've got this mix of intense physical pain and people telling you it's not real. That puts your nervous system on high alert, 24/7. Cortisol, the stress hormone, is just flooding his system, and his brain does the only thing it knows how to do. It starts rewiring everything for one purpose and one purpose only: survival.
So here's the crucial part. When the people who are supposed to be your safe harbor, your family, your friends, are constantly telling you you're lazy or weak or making it all up, your brain has to find a way to make sense of that pain. It ends up drawing this terrible but logical conclusion. If the people who are supposed to love me are hurting me, then maybe the problem is me. And that conclusion, neurologically speaking, is shame. It's not just a feeling. It becomes a piece of the architecture. It's a load-bearing wall in the fortress.
And that brings us to a huge turning point. This is where that private internal feeling of being wrong gets a loudspeaker, where the whole system echoes the accusation.
Okay, so picture the scene: a courtroom, a disability hearing. For Charles, this moment is filled with so much hope. After years of nobody believing him, this was his chance. The system, an official authority, was finally going to look at the evidence and see the reality his body had been screaming about.
But that's not what happened. After all of it, the judge looks at him and delivers a line that basically summarizes every painful thing he's ever heard. "We do not find you credible." Just wow. In that one moment, it's official. It's on the record. He is unseen.
There's actually a clinical name for this experience: institutional gaslighting. And what's fascinating and terrifying is that neurologically, it fires off the exact same signals in your brain as a deep personal betrayal from someone you love. It's the world itself confirming to your nervous system, you are alone, no one is coming to help you, the world is not safe.
This official rejection, it becomes the spark. Faced with total invalidation from the outside, Charles makes a conscious choice. He decides, if the world won't help me, I will build my own operating system, one designed not just to survive, but to win.
So after the hearing, he doesn't just curl up in a ball. He goes into research mode. He looks up the statistics for men with his health issues, his economic situation, and the data is just brutal. Shorter lifespan, poverty, homelessness. By every objective measure, the game was over before it started. So that brings up a massive question, right? What do you do when all the data predicts your own defeat?
Well, here's his answer.
He made a decision that no statistic could have ever predicted. He decided that he was going to become the most overcoming person who had ever faced what he was facing. This wasn't about revenge or proving people wrong. This was about creating a new reality through sheer force of will. This is the moment a core belief system, a schema, is consciously forged into a weapon for survival.
And this is how he did it. It's absolutely brilliant. He essentially built this high-output engine inside himself using two core schemas that work together. So an emotion would pop up, grief, fear, whatever. But before he could really feel it, his emotional inhibition schema would intercept it. Then instead of just crushing it, it would redirect that raw emotional energy and use it as fuel for his other schema, unrelenting standards. So pain literally became rocket fuel for achievement.
And man, did it work. The results were just staggering. He was accomplishing things at a pace that made zero sense given his circumstances. But there was a hidden cost, a huge one. This engine he built, it had no off switch. It never idled. And all those emotions that he was turning into fuel, they weren't going away. They were just being stockpiled, unprocessed, in this massive, growing warehouse inside him.
And this brings us to the final act of the story, maybe the most challenging part. What happens after the war's over, when that incredible survival engine has done its job, but there's nothing left to fight?
Well, inevitably, that high-output system just burned out. It hit its absolute limit. But that collapse actually led to a massive breakthrough. He finally got a real, concrete diagnosis. For the very first time, the enemy had a name, and that was everything. It gave his brain the neurological permission slip it needed to finally start processing all that trauma. With resources in place, the immediate crisis was, at long last, over.
But here's the tricky part about these survival programs we build. They don't just switch off when the danger's gone. They keep running. So there's Charles, in a quiet room, the battle won, but his internal fortress, his survival architecture, is still on high alert, scanning the horizon, desperately searching for the next mountain to climb, the next enemy to fight.
And it's in that quiet, in that stillness, that this profound realization starts to bubble to the surface. After all those years of fighting, he had become a master, an absolute expert at overcoming anything and everything that stood in his way.
But the very same fortress he built to keep the threats out had also kept connection out. The same architecture that allowed him to survive against impossible odds left him with this new, quiet, devastating challenge. He had no idea how to let anyone inside the world he fought so hard to protect.
And this is where the source material leaves us, by turning this intensely personal story outwards, toward us. Because Charles's experience, as unique as it is, really is a blueprint for how our nervous systems adapt to survive. So the final question isn't really about him, it's for you, it's for me. If you recognize a piece of your own life in this story, the question becomes, what is that recognition the beginning of?